All right. First rule of this channel, we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be my 2024 pre-draft running back rankings. Hopefully I'll get the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends as this goes on. The idea behind this, and this is important for those with listening comprehension problems, is this is not me saying that these are my definitive rankings for how I would go attack a draft. What I'm saying is this is how I would view where people should be or where running back should be ranked. And then I compare these to say other people's rankings and take advantage of the disproportionate value that I see versus where they have guys ranked. So like right now, and one of the ones that like blew my mind on the PFF ones that are done from March 18th was Jameer Gibbs is listed as running back 4, the number 10 guy overall. And I'm just like, that's ridiculous to me that he would be listed there. Like I said, I think I have him. I have my actual rankings. He's running back 12 right now. They have him at running back 4, and he's at the 10th spot. So like again, I think that's way overvalued, and there's no way that I would be picking Jameer Chase in a league that would be taking the PFF rankings. Now, your league is going to function differently than everybody else, and where everybody gets their rankings from, if you're not building them on your own, you kind of have to go by ear of how your draft goes out. And this is how I can use these rankings that I come up with, kind of use them as a cipher against other people's rankings, and know there's only going to be about 20 guys on my board when I go in there, because on this one PFF, if I have the 6th overall pick, there's a good chance that I'm going to be taking Jamar Chase in this draft. If I thought Jamar Chase was the 6th overall guy, right? So there isn't a lot of need for me in a snake draft to worry about who I'm going to take at 6, because I'm expecting that it's probably going to be Jamar Chase if it was going off this board. Now, my number 6 is probably going to be different than their number 6, but in general, like I just don't overthink things like that. Later on in the draft, there's a narrow amount of guys that I think have the upside to win a league, and those are the guys that I target. So earlier in the draft, like there are guys that I will be very risk averse with, and a guy like last year in my high school league, I think I had the number or the 207, and that one I ended up taking the Sun God. I was just like, hey, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to take the Sun God. I'm not going to overthink this one. That's how I went. So again, these rankings that I'm going to go over are not how I would attack a draft based off the rankings. They are how I would attack a draft based off of how I think our guys are going to be undervalued or overvalued in the draft. So anyway, moving on from this, we'll talk about the top guys. Like right now, I have Breece number 1. The big reason why I would have Breece number 1 is just basically the age and then the lack of competition for opportunity. So again, he's probably the number 2 in the passing game behind Garrett Wilson. Number 3 is probably going to be Mike Williams. He's probably the number 1 overall in the offense. Hey, there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. They got the offensive line going. It looks like they put some investment into the offensive line. They're not going to be bad. There's a lot of stuff to like. The biggest reason why I'd have McCaffrey as number 2, he's going to be over the age apex, and there is a little bit more competition, not just in the offense with all those toys, but with Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell and the age. That's why I'd have him knocked down a little bit. Again, I think you're splitting hairs to a certain extent. Kyron Williams, I had 3. Again, good offense. Under the age apex, lack of competition for opportunity there. And the other thing that people aren't going to talk about is Cooper Kupp did not look good at the end of the last season. So there may be some vacated opportunities with Cooper Kupp being, I think he's 30, 31 going into the season, something like that. So anyway, next I have Rachaad White at 4. And again, this is, again, the opportunity. He's going to have the backfield to himself. Baker May comes back. That's stability. What's his face? Mike Evans comes back. That's stability. So again, maybe we can plan for a little bit of regression towards the mean, positive regression towards the mean, whatever. Like maybe there's a little bit more room for him to grow in this offense. 64 receptions, 990 yards, 6 touchdowns. A lot of this came after that very slow start. So again, based off of why I would have him here is I think the mean or the middle range of outcomes for him is maybe running back 4. Maybe he's got a chance to challenge for running back 1. Maybe he finishes running back 7. Overall in drafts, because again, there is a luck component to fantasy football. The top 5 rounds of your draft have a hit rate of about 50%. And then after that, it starts falling. I think rounds 6, 7, or 6, 7, 8 are about like 1/3. 1 out of 3 you're going to hit on, and then after round 8, it turns into like 1 out of 10 picks pay off. So you got to remember, even in those top 5 rounds, like guys are going to bust, and you're really paying for how bad they're going to hurt you. So again, why I have Rachaad White at 4 has to do with his range of outcomes. He's probably not going to burn me, but at the same time, he still has an opportunity to win me a league. And that's part of the reason why I have Jonathan Taylor here. This is one of the guys that I probably should rank lower, but because of the fact that I think he's good at football, I'm going to put him where he is and kind of just ride the talent. Again, I think there's a possibility that Anthony Richardson vultures some touchdowns away from him overall. I don't know how much he's going to be used in the passing game, but they paid him. That's the biggest reason why he's there underneath the age apex, things that we like. Moving on to the top 6 guys, 6 through 10, Bijan. This is another one I probably should rank him lower based off of opportunity and the variable of Kirk Cousins coming in. That could be good, could be bad, could be a push. We're kind of banking that it's going to be a good thing for Bijan. Tyler Algier is going to be there. He's not going away. I could definitely see that there is some type of timeshare, even though Bijan's the guy who gets the better opportunities. But that's still going to overall cap where he's going to be able to produce in fantasy football this year. And again, you're also trying to guess how Kirk Cousins is going to step in. So this is the guy, again, I would bet on talent over some of the other variables that we could look at. And again, Josh Jacobs is kind of the opposite of this. Like, he's coming in, he looks like he's going to get the run, even though there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. But I would put him here because they paid him. He's coming into a good offense, lack of opportunity or lack of competition in the backfield. It's a good place to have him as my running back 7 overall. And then Zamir White, I've been talking about him already, running back 8. And you see that he finished the season with getting about 20 opportunities a game when Josh Jacobs went down. He was also using the passing game. So the hope here, again, is that Gardner Minshew stabilizes the offense. Doesn't have to be great, but as long as the rookies, and this is one of the other things why this is pre-draft and these guys will move, if one of these rookies goes to Oakland, then it would change Zamir White's value, right? If one of these rookies doesn't go to Oakland or to Las Vegas, it would keep Zamir White where he is or raise him up. So right now I have him as running back 8. That's based off the opportunity and the fact that the offense should be in the range of not bad to maybe okay. I don't expect them to be necessarily great, but there's just no one else there to give the opportunity to, and then we can start looking at talent. So from a fantasy perspective, the last thing that we really actually care about is talent. It's opportunity and where that opportunity is, how efficient that opportunity is going to be. Then we can start worrying about talent. We'll get to those guys that are probably limited a little bit when it comes to physical metrics later on. And well, I guess we could maybe talk about that a little bit with Isaiah Pacheco, how actually good at football he is versus how good an athlete he is. But in this case, they don't really have anybody else that I'm worried about in Kansas City. I think Lamicro P. there, Deneric Prince, maybe those guys can cut into the opportunity a little bit. There's also a chance in his 3rd year that he takes that jump and he pushes forward. Again, this is an offense attached to Patrick Mahomes. Maybe the thing that I would maybe guess I'll eventually rank him a little bit further down, move him down the line, and that would be because maybe he's going to lose some of the touchdown opportunities because of Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. Maybe that occurs, but right now he does look like he's got that outside chance for a bell cow status, so that's where I like where he's at right now. And James Cook is a similar situation. I think his opportunities are going to be capped by Josh Allen falling in the end zone, but right now there's no one else there that I'm really worried about. I think Ty Johnson's the only one that's listed on the roster right now. So he is in line to be a bell cow, but I would expect that he is going to get competition probably from the draft or some type of move that goes on. I would be very surprised if he moves in there. But right now, as running back 10 overall, that range of outcomes, like, can I see him finishing as running back 5? Yeah. Can I also see him finishing about like running back 15? Yeah. So running back 10 is probably a very fair place to put a guy like James Cook going into the season, regardless of if a guy is brought in or not. I just think that again. 5'11", 190, getting in that bell cow range, being able to score. And you got to remember, we're looking at Christian McCaffrey, who was like, the fantasy unicorn last year. And you have to be able to write a story where any of these running backs have the stat line that Christian McCaffrey had last year attached to San Francisco's offense. 1,500 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, 67 receptions, 564 yards, 7 more touchdowns on the ground. You have to write that story when you start talking about these guys, about how they win you your league. Otherwise, you're looking at a guy that's going to have that cap ceiling. We're going to talk about like Jahmyr Gibbs here in a second. That's what we're looking at when I'm looking at these running backs when I'm ranking them. What do I think the chances are that they can exceed what I'm paying for them? So if I put James Cook at 10, I'm realizing that like how bad can he hurt me if I miss, versus what are the chances he can return higher than investment. That's why I have the good old picture of Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy trading places, at the commodity exchange. You're trying to get more than you put into these guys so you can win a league. Otherwise, like a guy like Christian McCaffrey, all he can do is hurt your or break your heart. When you spend the 101 on him and he finishes at running back 4 and he's outside of that tier of elite running backs. You got to remember that when you're this is stuff I look at when I'm putting in my capital into my drafts. So again, Barkley at running back 11, and this is a little strange. I probably could move him down a little bit more, and I also could move him up, but I like where he's at right now. Again, remember, you're looking at a 1-for-1 replacement to DeAndre Swift last year. So DeAndre Swift in this offense last year, 229 carries, 1049 in the rushing game, 5 touchdowns to go along with 39 receptions, 214 yards. And he did miss a little bit of time. You can see in there, like didn't play a lot week 1, missed week 10, and then didn't finish the season. And again, I don't really care about stats. We don't care about the actual football stats. We care about the numbers in our fantasy score line. So in this case, I don't really care about week 18. I always usually plan a guy is going to miss a game. It's just a matter if it's a week 18 or someplace else off in the season. In this case, that's what you're basically looking at. Like, do you think that Saquon is going to be higher or lower than that DeAndre Swift stat line? And Kenneth Gainwell is going to come back. I imagine that's not going to be the only competition there. You're still going to have Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And again, running back 11, am I going to get running back 6 or am I going to get running back 17? That's what you're looking at in that range of outcomes for taking Barkley at 11. If we look at, say, PFF, where Saquon's going, and you see that he's going at running back 14 overall, running back 6. That's overvalued to me. That's probably the top end of where he's going to his potential range of outcomes. Like, I don't see how he's going to move into that next tier of guys based off of opportunity. And it's the same thing when I look at ESPN. When I pull this up, he's running back 6 on ESPN. He's probably going to be going in that range. And it's just a guy that I think is like too overvalued based off of the story that I tell myself to be able to get him to that Christian McCaffrey stat line at the end of the season. I just don't see how it's there. Next up is Jahmyr Gibbs. And this is another one I think is overvalued. Running back 4 overall on PFF 10. So, I mean, you're spending a first-round draft pick on Jahmyr Gibbs. And I have him pulled up right next to David Montgomery because I think if you're going to pull the trigger on Gibbs, you got to pull the trigger on David Montgomery. They're going to go together, and just trying to figure out a way that Jahmyr Gibbs from last year, 182 yard or attempts, 945, 10 touchdowns, another 52 receptions, 316 yards, 1 touchdown. I do think there is some room for growth for him statistically, but how do I tell the story where he gets up to 20 touchdowns? That's the hard thing with David Montgomery in this offense, with the Sundiad and with Sam Laporta. And then you're going to have a full season with Jameson Williams in this offense. It's a hard road to see how he goes from in the case of ESPN, if I could pull them up. When I look at Jahmyr Gibbs, it's a hard road for me to say he can get to Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, even going as running back 7, and I have him as running back. Let me see. I have him as running back 12, right? So if he finishes the season at running back 15, I'm still right. And if he finishes the season as running back 8, I'm still right when I rank him the way that I do within my scale, right? So then Derrick Henry, again, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about Derrick Henry. That's why I have him as low as he is. He's never been used in the passing game. I've already talked about this before. He's going to be way over the age apex, going to a new offense that could go a lot of different ways, attached to a quarterback that does run the football. So there's just a lot of stuff where I'm just like, I do like that he's probably going to be the bell cow. I don't like everything else along with him, So again, if I have him at running back 13 and he finishes at running back, say 10, like I that's within his range of outcomes. If he finishes as running back, 15, like that wouldn't surprise me either. Travis Etienne, and again, this is the fall off that he had with that efficiency. I do think that they're going to have some type of running back by committee there. There's a lot of talent to like about him, but at this case, like there's variables that I don't like about trying to predict if the offense is actually going to be good, if there's going to be opportunities for him to get, and how much opportunity is going to be spread around between Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnston. These are just things that I don't particularly like. If Travis Etienne, when I have him ranked right now as running back 14, if he's going at running back 14, I would pull the trigger on him. That's what I'm saying with these rankings. Like if he's going in a draft and I can get Travis Etienne, he's at running back 9 on ESPN, PFF, like hopefully he's a little bit better ranked. I'm trying to find him. Anyway, with Travis Etienne, if he's going as a fourth round draft pick, I think that's good value for him because he can still have that upside. Right now, he's 21 overall, which is probably, depending on your league, late second, early third, running back 9. I just think that's the cap of where his range of outcomes is. I wouldn't be spending on him. Running back 14, it gives me a little bit of risk baked into him. It also gives me a little bit of security knowing that I'm not overpaying on Travis Etienne. All right, let's see. Who do we have next? This is my next tier. And then finally, Joe Mixon. And again, this is another guy with age, good offense. I don't think Dameon Pierce is going to go away. Again, range of outcomes. If I have Joe Mixon at running back 15, he finishes at running back 10. Remember, last year he finished at running back 5. If he finishes at running back 10, I think that's within his range of outcomes. I just don't know how I get from Joe Mixon running back 10 to Joe Mixon league winner going up against this Christian McCaffrey stat line that we're going to be chasing next year. I just don't see how that's going to go. So if Joe Mixon is ranked higher than running back 15 in my draft, if he goes before I would put him, I wouldn't be going and getting spending that capital on Joe Mixon. So again, where is Joe Mixon when we go and try and hunt him down in PFF? They have him. Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is too high. Running back 16, so about where I would have him ranked. I think that's fair. And then good old ESPN probably has him overranked at running back 12. I think that's a little bit too pricey for me in this thing. Gus Edwards would be my running back 16. And this is the thing. This was my tier of athletically limited guys that are in good opportunities right now, more or less. And it's really hard for me to evaluate guys. So a little bit of story time. Last year, my original rankings, after the season, before the draft, when I just did a quick rundown of everybody, I had Najee Harris at running back 6, just purely based off opportunity. And then as the season went on, after the offseason went on, after the draft and all that stuff, I started to realize that like Jaylen Warren's probably going to cut into that. I don't know how the offensive line is going to gel. You have a guy who's athletically limited, and then with a unknown quarterback situation, and that's when Najee started moving further and further down my board. But that's from an initial spot when he was at running back 6, based off of what he did in 2022, opportunity-wise, going forward to 2023. So it would be a similar process with Gus Edwards. He's attached to Justin Herbert. He's right now going to be the bell cow. It does appear like that. They did pay him some money to come in. I'm expecting that they go out and they bring someone else in as competition, either in the draft or somehow else. But it's hard for me to rank him lower than running back 16 based off his opportunity. So that's all I'm doing is I'm comparing him where I think he should be ranked as a good in between of his risk and reward, and then I'm looking at the other rankings and saying like, why do they have him higher or lower? Right. And there's Aaron Jones. I do have Aaron Jones at about that range. Those are the only things that I'm really up to. They have Jonathan Brooks ranked 24 overall without even having a team attached. And again, it's all about landing spot to me more so than anything else. So even over on ESPN, I can't find Gus Edwards right now. Trying to hunt down Gus Edwards is running back 36 on ESPN. I have him as running back 16. So again, if I'm looking at Gus Edwards in my draft, and I'm expecting that Gus Edwards is going to be going in the draft in like the 7th round, he would be a guy that I would go, hey, he's on my list of the guys that I would be looking at to either take in the 7th round or jump up and take in the 6th round, depending on what my draft shakes out to be. All right. And that's if he survives the rookie draft coming up here at the end of April. So next up is Devin Singletary. Again, he's an athletically limited guy. I don't know how good the offense is going to be. This is purely based off the fact that he doesn't have competition, and he's probably good at football, even though he's not going to get that 70-yard touchdown run that I kind of need to have him compete against a Christian McCaffrey or Breece Hall. So again, the upside with Devin Singletary, even if the offense is like in that okay range of outcomes, is going to be limited by his ability. That's why he has to. I would put him at this low, even if he survives the rookie draft. No one comes in to give him competition against the Giants. Chuba Hubbard is going to be a guy that I will move up as the draft goes on. He is right now ranked as my running back 18. I'm waiting to see what goes on with Miles Sanders. I'm waiting to see what some of the conversation is going to be when it comes to the offense. Like I said, I brought him up before. I can't see that the Panthers offense is going to be that bad. The main thing with Chuba Hubbard when it comes to how enthusiastic I'm going to be about him is the cost. So you see if he's running back 35 on ESPN, and then I'm going and trying to hunt him down on PFF and see how low that he's going to be going on PFF. That would be the main thing that I would be looking at, like Chuba Hubbard running back 30. And in a 10-team league, he would be a guy that I think is a steal going in round 10. So that's why I would have him ranked up there as running back 18. He's a guy that I would be targeting because the range of outcomes in the 10th round for me to be throwing that guy away when after a week or two, I realized that I drafted him to have a potential high-end running back 2, low-end running back 1 range of outcomes, and then he's in a bad offense in a timeshare, opportunity timeshare with Miles Sanders is probably not something that's worth it to me. But right now, I would say that the range of outcomes on Chuba, when I have him at running back 18, yeah, I could see him jumping to running back 12. Maybe there's a range of outcomes where he can crack the top 10. I can also see that the offense is so bad and the opportunity situation is so bad. They bring in a running back in the draft, and now he's going to fall like all the way to like running back 36. I could definitely see that. So another guy, Rico Dowdle, he's a guy that I would definitely look at being attached to that Cowboys offense with Dak. All things considered, and I know there's some stuff about Dak that we could talk about, but the main thing with Rico Dowdle, he would be in line for that like 60 to 70% workload. They were using him in design passing game, and they were giving him a little bit of run, even with the Tony Pollard next year. So again, this would be a main guy that if he survives the draft, this is where I think a good range of outcomes would be about like running back 19. And then finally in this tier, we have Aaron Jones. This is a good place for him. Remember, I don't like Sam Darnold coming in. The offense could be better. The offense could be worse. It could be about the same as it was, and it was a mess last year because of the quarterback situation. He's over the age apex. He had a problem staying healthy last year. And then the other thing, and I have this actually pulled up, Ty Chandler. Again, he may not be good at football and might just be a good athlete, but you can see that like over the course of the season, he was given a little bit of run. So I could maybe see that Aaron Jones is in that 60% snaps, and then Ty Chandler is in that 40% snaps. And then overall, Aaron Jones, that range of outcomes is going to be a lot harder to predict. 20, maybe he's running back 10, maybe he's running back 30. At running back 20 is a good good place to be hedging my bets between the two outcomes. Moving on to the next tier, James Conner to start off with. I don't know what they're going to do with DeMarcado and Michael Carter. I would be surprised if they bring somebody else in. I still think that he's going to be given that like 60 to 70% snaps attached to Kyler Murray. Offense is probably going to be a little bit more stable than it was last year. It's going to be really difficult to kind of parse out how this goes. And this would be a guy that would be heavily dependent on, if the Cardinals bring somebody else in the draft. But again, at running back 21, I think this is a good place to go. Hey, he's got some value at running back 21. If he's underneath that, like obviously the possibility that I have a replacement level, like desperation RB2 is there, but over this level, like you're definitely overpaying for a guy that there's a very difficult very difficult road to have him finish higher than he did last year. It says he finished last year as running back 18 overall. So again, I have him ranked as 21. Devontae Williams, he finished last year as running back 30, it says, and I have him ranked as running back 22. Right now, I would expect him. He's another one that be in that like 70 or 60 to 70% snaps range. Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. That's probably like one of the biggest things that would hurt him. And he's another one that's going to be athletically limited. So again, there is value to him going in this range of the draft. At this point, we are going to be outside of those more premium rounds, probably like 8, 9, 10 round range. So throwing darts at these guys to give me an RB2 is not a bad thing. And then Kenneth Walker, and I have him attached to Zach Charbonnet at this rate. Like the offense is probably not going to be good. I don't think they're going to be bad. I could definitely see that Zach Charbonnet moves, cuts a little bit more into the opportunities. And that's on top of the fact that Kenneth Walker may be limited from a football player perspective. It's not that he's a bad athlete. It's just that the things that he does well, they're going to have him do well, just like they did last year. And then they're going to give more, some of them more work to Zach Charbonnet. And you've got to be able to tell your story when it comes to Kenneth Walker at his value. Is can he go and compete with that running back one? And where's the point in the draft where he's worth that? And right now, like at running back 21, 22, 23, and you're probably looking at Zach Charbonnet being in around that area of the draft, because again, both these guys potentially, if the other one goes down, has a league winner written all over them, so they do still have value to them. I already talked about Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift. So again, we're expecting Caleb Williams to get drafted to the Bears. They paid DeAndre Swift. He's under the age apex. He is going to be a little bit limited from a football perspective. Khalil Herbert's still going to be there. Roschon's still going to be there. So again, trying to look at him like he finished as running back 23 last year. I would say that that's pretty much where his range of outcomes is going to be, right plop in the middle. I have him at running back 24 based off of a running back 23 outcome. I don't think that's like a bad place to put him. And that's if, certain things happen. So if Khalil Herbert gets moved, I don't think it changes him at all. And if Khalil Herbert doesn't get moved, I think it doesn't really change him at all. So, and then to finish off this tier, running back 25 overall, Alvin Kamara. The biggest thing, and I will pull this up because Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller is a guy, I've already talked about him in some of the other videos. Kendre Miller is probably going to be the guy that's more valuable in this backfield going into the season. But when we look at good old Alvin Kamara at running back 25, over the age apex, some efficiency issues going on at the end of the or as the season went down. I don't see that changing even if he comes back to the Saints. If he doesn't come back to the Saints, this will skyrocket Kendre Miller. And the other thing you got to remember, even with the possibility that Kendre Miller, the younger back, is there, they still have Jamal Williams. If he's healthy, it's just a lot of stuff to parse out at. And then so there has not been a good track record of a running back falling off of the efficiency and then coming back the next year. This is like the epitome of that running back dead zone type of guy. Let's see. Running back 26 is Ramondre, and I have him like handcuffed directly to Antonio Gibson in the same boat. Both have the opportunity to win a league if the other one goes down. Ramondre is a good football player, athletically limited. Probably the opposite could be said about Antonio Gibson at this point. Very athletically gifted, but maybe from a football perspective, a little bit limited. Don't know who the running or the quarterback's going to be in this offense. Don't know if there's going to be any other tools behind it. A lot of question marks. Again, this is going to be overall cost, and I would package these guys together. I do think that they're both going to be undervalued. Like these would be guys that I would definitely be looking to target in drafts, because I think I could get a sneaky running back 2 in Ramondre and then handcuff them together with Antonio Gibson with the upside of one way or another getting an RB1 as the season goes on. And then I have Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert attached to each other. Again, good offense. Raheem Mostert's going to be way over that age apex. Everybody loves Devin Achane after what he did last year. And again, this is just an issue of like, is either of these guys going to get the boat to get the opportunity to get up there? They got to score like 20 touchdowns. They need to be 50 receptions, and they got to get like well over 1,000 yards. You're looking at 1,200 to 1,500 yards to go along to go along with that. So when you look at like Devin Achane last year, at 100 carries, 800 yards rushing, another 27 receptions, 197 receiving, and then 11 total touchdowns. This is a guy that, like, even though I have him ranked as running back 27 overall, uh, that's 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 probably saying that he is undervalued by me. ESPN running back 17. I could definitely see spending that on him, because of the possibility. Like, if you're rolling Achane out as your RB2, he's going to win you some spike weeks just because of what he can do. I don't think that's there with Mostert. And then as I try and hunt him down on PFF, and it's not that I like PFF or ESPN as their rankings. I do think ESPN by the end of the year they have some of the more consistent rankings out of everybody. There's only a handful of guys I think that are under evaluated one way or another. It's just the fact that when it comes to finding reasonable stats right now, I'm just looking at how everybody else has kind of decided to arbitrarily rank certain guys, and trying to hunt down where some of these guys are, for lack of a better way to put it, like a consensus, because I want to use that against everybody else. That when they look at bad rankings and they think that a guy's going to be in a spot at a certain situation, those are what I'm looking at. And I don't see Achane right now. But again, that just shows how overwhelmingly Lad McConkey, that would be a guy that I definitely think is going to be undervalued going into this year, depending on where he lands. So moving on, as I can't find Devin Achane on PFF. So Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, this is going to be really difficult to evaluate how good the offense is attached to Will Levis going into next year. Calvin Ridley and Hopkins are going to be back. And then these two running backs, like they're going to be probably splitting time 50-50 between the two of them. That's what's going to hurt them overall, like buying the backfield, seeing how it shakes out. But overall, like you're getting all the way down to, I think I have these two guys listed is running back 28. And this is combined. Like I'm not splitting hairs. I don't think there's a good way to evaluate them one way or another. And if you get lucky, you're going to win a league. And then at this point, like I have Zach Moss and Chase Brown. I could definitely see Chase Brown takes over the backfield. I also could see that Zach Moss takes over the backfield. I could also see that they are split and they're attached to Joe Burrow in that offense. So I like that. And this is going to be cost. And at that point, it's just like, they're a lottery ticket that I either have to buy one half of, or I have to bring in together. And again, at this point in the draft, my combined running back 29 at this point, and the same thing, same type of thought process with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris as running back 30. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Not a good offense. They've sort of upgraded the offensive line. Harris is probably athletically limited. He's probably the better football player. Jaylen Warren is probably the better athlete, maybe not the football player. Timeshare. Tell me the story where one of these guys wins the league. That's the same thing we're getting at with some of these guys. Like Chase Brown may not be as athletically limited, or may not be as limited from a talent perspective. It's an opportunity perspective. Zach Moss is probably a little bit more limited from a talent perspective or athletically. And again, so maybe Chase Brown's got that road to win a league. Maybe Jaylen Warren has that opportunity to win a league if he goes down, and that's not the same thing as Zach Moss or Najee Harris. So again, if I'm splitting hairs and I'm going to try and get lucky as the season goes on, either in best ball or in redraft, I would be leaning towards a Chase Brown or a Jaylen Warren. Again, the guy that can give me that 60-yard touchdown is always somebody I'm looking at. And then to finish off this tier, Austin Eckler, and then Brian Robinson, Chris Rodriguez. Like Brian Robinson is probably going to be undervalued a little bit, but don't really know what that quarterback situation is going to be like down there in Washington at this rate. Don't know what the offense is going to look like. If you're getting a three-headed monster, you don't really have anybody in fantasy. And the same thing with Cleveland. I would be staying away from between Nick Chubb, Deonta Foreman, Jerome Ford, and Pierre Strong. Maybe I could get lucky and Jerome Ford or Deonta Foreman, have that workload in the beginning of the season. Maybe Nick Chubb comes back. Like this is all stuff I don't like, and there's going to be a heavy amount of where they're valued. A guy like last year was Puka in my draft. Puka, Devin Achane, some of these guys that I thought had more value, that I thought there was a better road for them winning me a league than picking up like a Nick Chubb, putting him at the bottom of my bench and hoping that Nick Chubb in week 10 or something, if he comes back, is Nick Chubb of 2 years ago. That's just not something I'm expecting, going forward. That's why I have them all the way down here. It's not that they're worth a bad dart throw. I just don't know what the chances are that it will pay off for me in order to properly evaluate them. So anyway, that's my running back rankings going into the pre-draft. Some of these guys I'm expecting, and I have this pulled up here. I'm expecting about 5 of these running backs to probably change the rankings and jump into where I think that they are become draftable. I don't expect a lot of these running backs to really change some of these guys' perspective, even if they come in to back up some of these running backs. I don't know how much opportunity they're going to take away from some of these like top tier guys if they come in. If the Rams bring in somebody, I don't know how much I would necessarily downgrade Kieran Williams. Maybe I move him into that like 6 to 10 range, something along those lines. Some of these guys, we're already expecting that they're going to have competition brought in. Rico Dowdle, and Gus Edwards. I'm already expecting that their competition is going to come in. Maybe I move them up slightly if no one comes in via the draft. I would expect to move them up a little bit. And again, like if you haven't heard me talk already, I like a lot of the running backs. I just think that they're all flawed in their own special type of way. But these are my thoughts going forward. Wide receiver, hopefully I'll break that down next week. I think that's a little bit harder to evaluate. Like you're combining guys like Debo and Ayuk and stuff like that to try and get a good idea where they should be going. And I remember from a redraft perspective, or even higher stakes leagues, if you don't have the ability to trade or something like that, one of the things that we have to look at is how few of these bell cows there's going to be next year. And that's why they end up getting pushed up the board. When it comes to like a wide receiver situation, and I'll pull up PFF, like there's a better chance that I can find consistency on a week-to-week basis from a wide receiver than I'm going to be able to find week-to-week league-winning ability or season league-winning ability from the running backs. Like that tier drop-off is so much higher that I have to be able to spend a little bit of I have to put in a little bit more risk in my first round, and then hopefully be able to figure out the wide receiver as I go down the line later on, because I have like the biggest thing I have written down in my notes why I do the draft or the rankings the way I do is I'm trying to do something different. I'm not going to do the same thing everybody else is, because how am I going to expect to get a different outcome? And that's the biggest thing. Like, the same process will lose me a league, will win me a league. I have to be able to take risk to win the league. I have to be able to appropriately value guys with that return on investment overall. So, that's about all I got. And see you guys next week.